Greetings, everyone, and welcome to episode 39 of Teaching Tales. I am Brent Coley, your host, an elementary principal in beautiful Southern California. And joining me today, I'm really excited to chat with somebody that I have heard speak a couple of years ago, and I'm thrilled to have him share his story today, Dr. Joe Sanfelippo. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Before we started recording, busy, but that's good. Never a dull day. So, appreciate you taking the time because, as I mentioned, I heard you speak at Lead 3, an administrator ed tech conference a couple years ago. Got a chance to shake your hand and say, wow. You are, for anyone who listening, if you get a chance to listen to Joe speak in person, the energy, the passion with which he speaks is awesome. Talk about engagement. Yeah, absolutely, Joe. Thank you. So, and one of the things that you are big on is connections, being intentional, making connections with your community. I know you do an amazing job about that. And before we jump in, for anyone not familiar with who Joe Sanfelippo is, who is Joe Sanfelippo?
Sometimes I wonder, it's funny is that, about when you saw me speak at Lead 3, I remember that because I went on like a Thursday and then Sir Ken Robinson went on a Friday. And I'm like, you want to talk about the ultimate JV and varsity duo? I mean, holy cow. Sir Ken Robinson, I am from Fall Creek, Wisconsin, people. Like, we are population 1,300 and there's 800 kids in the school. And my biggest accomplishment is being on the cover of the Cricket Chirp, man, not like anything else. So I don't know about that, but I am I'm a superintendent in Fall Creek, Wisconsin, home of the Fall Creek Crickets, and we are an 825 to 830 student school district in northwest Wisconsin, on the good side of Minnesota, the one that's not Minnesota, right? And I'm just excited to be here. Like, I think a lot of times that we talk about as leaders, we talk about how we can make things better for the people that we care for. But often there's often times where we just think, oh, they'll get better if we just build relationships and build relationships and build relationships, which is totally true, except we don't talk about how we build relationships. We just talk about how important it is to build them. So it's like telling me, like, Joe, you need to exercise more. Well, I know that. You don't need to tell me that I need to exercise more, but tell me how. How is it going to make me? How am I going to feel better doing this thing? Same thing with eating. Like, you need to eat healthier. Well, duh. So you're trying to tell me that burritos and Snickers bars aren't really putting me at my optimum weight? Of course, I know that, but I'm not going to change until you give me an opportunity to build some momentum on what I do and feel better about the work that I'm doing. So that's a big component to what we're doing. And I think here in Fall Creek, the biggest thing for us is to give our people the opportunity to be intentional about their relationship building. And if you can be intentional about relationship building, you find yourself in a much different spot than saying, I just want you to build relationships.
Yeah, as you were saying that, it's kind of like as a site leader giving feedback to teachers, because we obviously want to improve instruction and things like that. We have to be specific, targeted with that feedback rather than just saying, get better. Or, it's like, right. Well, specifically, how could I get better? Or myself, if my supervisor is saying, Brent, here's what I'd like you get better, specifically, how would you have me do that? Because I think we all want to get better, but like you said, exercise. Okay, what's the plan to do that? Do you have any stories? Because that's what this podcast is. It's sharing stories. And I'm thinking of some of the things I've heard you share about being intentional. I'm thinking of, I don't know if you have anything in mind, but I'm thinking of like your press conferences.
Oh, yeah.
You do. Can you share like a story of what you do there?
So I think it's really important to understand that when we bring new hires into our school district, or when we bring new hires into any place, doesn't matter if it's our school district or any school district, these people are coming from somewhere else, or it's their first job. And if we don't make them feel like they're part of something bigger, then they just come in and get into their classrooms and do what they can. And I think the last couple of years, we've done a couple of things to really we're just really intentional about the opportunity to integrate people into this space. And a couple of things that we've done, I mean, the press conferences are one thing. So one of the things that we try to do is, like, if you get hired in Fall Creek, we treat it like you got drafted by a professional team. Like, you get the backdrop with the press conference, we ask you a couple questions, that kind of thing, and we've kind of tailored it and made it a little bit different over the course of the last couple of years. So it's been kind of fun to see the iterations of that. At the same time, it's still trying to celebrate the work that goes on. We've done podcasts in the past of new hires so people could hear their voices and that kind of thing, just so people get to know them. But the biggest push that we had this year actually didn't even come with the press conference. It came because one of the things that we try to do to integrate people into their new team is, when we hire somebody here, I always let the team offer the job to the person. So, and they don't offer the job, they offer the recommendation for hire, because it's got to go through the board forever. But I was going to make that call as a superintendent anyway. I was going to call them and say, hey, we'd love to have you join us, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. You're going to be a great addition, and do that whole superintendent-y thing, right? So instead, what we started doing, and we did this a long time ago, but it's been really cool over the course of the last couple of years, is that we let the team that interviewed, we let them offer the job to the person. So last year, there's two quick stories. Last year now it's, holy cow, it's 3 years ago. My goodness. So 3 years ago, we got done with the interviews, and one of the the group came to me and said, this is the person that we want. We know we want her. She's fantastic. But we know she has an interview tomorrow in another school district. And she said, they said, so what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I said, well, I know she's student teaching about 20 minutes from here. Why don't you guys just go get in the car and go offer her the job? So they did. They went into where she was student teaching, and they just offered her the job in front of all the kids. It was great. And so we took a bunch of pictures, and then we sent them to her and everybody else, and it was fantastic. And people really felt like it was a cool thing. And that's something she'll remember for a long time. But then this year, we upped it even more, right? So this year, what we did was, instead of, when we made the offer, we recorded the offer. So I had a videotape I asked the candidate to come back. We put him in a conference room. I had a videotape in the conference room, and the team was back there. And all of a sudden you can hear this huge scream. Everybody's really, really excited. And so they offer the job. She says, yes, I've got it on videotape. And I talked to her after, and I said, hey, I would love to take this video of you. And I showed it to her. Yeah, I'd love to take this video. And would it be okay if I sent it to your parents? And just so they could feel like what it was like to be there when their daughter got their first job. So now I don't even have to be intentional about telling the story of what's happening in this space. Now I've got a group, like I got my tribe now, right? Like these people are out, they're gonna scream and shout about the work that's happening here, just because we involved them in the process of the hire. And so we were intentional about making sure we built the relationship prior to them even being here. And that seemed to help out really well.
Oh my gosh, I'm picturing what my parents would have done had my first principal called my parents or sent the video. I mean,
right.
And as you're saying that, I'm thinking, because as a lot of principals, I've got the idea from Twitter is that good news call of the day. And I think you do very similar, but I'm thinking, why not extend that to spouses? Why not call the husband or the wife of my teachers who I know are fantastic, and I'm telling them they're fantastic, but how cool would that be to take it a step further? Because I know the parents, when I call the parents students, I did one today of a kindergartner, and it was I'm just watching her as we have her on speaker, and she is just blowing up. And I know her mom loved it, but gosh, what an easy thing to do. How did the parents? Did you get to see how the parents responded?
They sent a bunch of emails and said, they're great and everything. One thing that we have to remember as educators is that everybody is somebody's kid. Everybody. Doesn't matter how old you are. Everybody's somebody's kid. Mm-hmm. So if you call the parents of a staff, which we've done, we've called parents of staff members. One of the things we used to, we sent a note home to the spouses of all our staff members just at the beginning of the year, just to say thank you for sharing them with us all year, because it gets to be a long year. At the end of that year, actually, my 8th grade science teacher came up to me and said, hey, I just wanted to say thank you for the letter that you sent to my wife, which I sent like 9 months ago, right? And he said, my wife still keeps it on the fridge. So think about that. Wow. They've had that note on the fridge for 9 months. And every time that he's at school late because he's got something going on, she can see that note and know that he's valued. That's a big deal. And the more that we can make people feel valuable in that space, then the better we're all going to be for it. And it's really important from our lens as administrators to know and understand that we have the opportunity to make people feel like rock stars. We have the opportunity to make people feel like they can run through a wall. And that's, it's not about the leadership component. It's about allowing them to be able to step out of the comfort zone that they've created for years and years and years and try something different and feel like they can. And when they feel like they can, they will. Yeah.
Well, and doesn't the research say something like 50% of teachers leave within 5 years, and the number one reason I think that I've read is they don't feel appreciated.
Absolutely.
They don't feel valued. And gosh, words of appreciation is my love language. In terms of, it's like, I think everybody likes to hear nice things said about them. Certain people, and I'm one of those people, that's what fills my tank.
Absolutely.
So we tend to speak the language that we like to hear. So I try to do that, but just listening to you, I'm jotting notes down to the side of things that I can try to do to be more intentional about building those relationships with staff members. Any other stories or ways that you have done it with your students or your community? I'm thinking of your Facebook video. Your snow day. Gosh, that was just awesome, by the way. But
right.
You're so great on social media, and I want to thank you and Todd Schmidt. After your talk, and then I went to a session on Todd Schmidt. That is how we started our Alta Rocks #Alta Rocks.
Oh, cool.
I go to Alta Murrieta, so thank you, and thank you, Todd, if you're listening. You two were instrumental in us. Really, we were already doing social media. Yeah. But trying to be more intentional about building that brand, building that Alta Rocks brand. Any other stories real quickly before we go?
I would tell you that this, if you want to really tell people the impact of being intentional or the impact, we talk about how we change culture in 30-second increments. That's a thing that can happen. And you have to believe that it can happen. And when I told my staff that we build culture in 30-second increments, they didn't believe me. So do this with your staff and your students. Doesn't matter if you're teaching or if you're a leader in a building. Have two of your staff members stand face to face, and then have them go 3 inches from their nose to nose, 3 inches apart, and just have them stare at each other for 30 seconds, right? And they will try to get out of that as quickly as they can, right? That's 30 seconds. Then after they do that, have them sit down. Then have them get out their phone with their contacts and find somebody in their contacts that have helped them get to that place in their life, and tell them you have 30 seconds to text that person and tell them thank you. It's not about the time. It's about what you do at the time. We did that activity here, and then here's the best part. We did that activity here in 2016, right? In 2017, first staff meeting. 2016 was the first staff meeting we did it. 2017, first staff meeting. We do it again. And I had everybody stand up. I said, okay, stand up, stand toe-to-toe with your partner. We're going to get nose to nose. And they all went, oh, we already did this. Why are you making us do this again, right? And then I said, I'm not going to have you do it, but I want you to think about something. This activity took 30 seconds, 365 days ago. And I just asked you to do it again, and you had an emotional reaction to what happened 365 days ago for 30 seconds. If we're intentional about every 30 seconds, we can change the way people think. That's the way it is.
Wow. I just need a moment to process that but seriously, I think we overlook it's the simple things. It's the simple things that we don't even realize we're doing, those 30 seconds, that word. In one of my episodes a couple times ago, I do lunch with the principal, and I briefly talked about how I was busy. I wasn't feeling well that day. I was ready to go home. Kid got a haircut in preparation for lunch with the principal.
There you go.
And one of my teachers said, exactly. And it's I'm really? So, wow. But yeah, being intentional about those 30 seconds. Have you seen those videos on YouTube? As you're mentioning the 30 staring into each other's eyes because that's hard to do.
For sure.
But the point, that elicits a strong emotional reaction.
Without question.
Wow. Whew. Joe, thank you.
No problem. I appreciate you having me on. It's always fun to talk about the great stuff that our teachers are doing. Like, we got rock stars here, man. They are legit, and I'm so proud of these people, and the idea that they change lives, man. My people change lives. That's what it's all about. So, I mean, I'll take my group over anybody. I love my people. Well,
as you're saying that, I'm just thinking, gosh, I feel the same way about my staff.
Good.
And I'm feeling challenged listening to this. So for anyone listening, if you're in a site leadership or a district leadership or any kind of leadership, you're a TOSA, you're a classroom teacher, those who you serve, I'm challenged to step up my game to be more intentional about building that culture, 30-second increments, letting them know how valued they are, because I think it's almost like with our spouse. Well, I love you. You still got to tell them. And you got to show them.
Right.
Well, Joe.
That reminds me, I got to text my wife real quick. Hold on.
I'll give you 30 seconds. How's that?
Yeah, that's right. At least I know where her number is, I think, because she asked me to get milk and eggs at the store. So
there we go.
So I appreciate the time, Brent. Thanks so much for having me. It was an honor to be here.
You got it. And for anyone looking to connect with you online, where could they find you?
They can go to either jsanfelippo.com or on Twitter at Joe_Sanfelippo, Sanfelippo.
Awesome. And you've got a couple great books that they can find on there as well. Hacking Leadership.
Right. We're trying.
And Joe, don't sell yourself short. You and Ken Robinson, you right up there together, my friend. You were both incredible. So
I appreciate that. Thank you. He's fantastic, and he's been very helpful. I love talking to him. It's cool to be able to say, I was emailing with Ken Robinson last week, and he said this. I'm like, that happens all the time, right?
That is pretty cool. Well, Joe, thank you again. And everyone, thank you for listening. Totally appreciate you tuning in. If you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe in iTunes and/or Google Play. And until next time, have a good one.